I'm with Laurence Garrett from Beit Yousef. Now, Laurence, what is Beit Yousef?
Beit Yousef is a home from home for children and adults with very severe special needs here in the Palestinian territories.
Now you're a house here in Beit Yousef. Have you had to renovate this house for the needs that you need?
So our young people come here and have many different challenges. And in order to look after them well, we needed a space that was designed with their needs in mind. Unfortunately, the building that we started with had been empty for 12 years and was in terrible disrepair. So it's taken us the best part of 2.5 years to finally get it to a standard where we can do the work well.
And what sort of needs do the children have that come here?
So our young people have severe mental retardation or severe special needs learning disabilities, however you call it, which looks like many of our young people, in fact, all of our young people cannot talk. Most don't understand what is said to them. They struggle, whether they're 5 years old or 35 years old, to do the basic things such as going to the bathroom, dressing themselves, feeding themselves. They need an immense amount of care just to keep them safe and meet their very basic needs.
So are these children that need 24/7 care?
They are, but here in the Palestinian territories, there just isn't that type of care available. For many of our young people, there isn't a single residential unit that can take them in and care for them, which is why we provide short breaks for these young people to give their families a break from the responsibilities of caring for them, but also to give our young people a break from the difficult situations that they face in their own homes.
Are some of these children that you take in dangerous to themselves?
Yes, very much so. Because of their abilities or disabilities, they have the ability of maybe a 1 or 2 year old. They might be able to get around and walk, but they don't know about cars and the dangers of walking on the streets. Some of our young people actually injure themselves in order to stimulate themselves because they've been so neglected in their homes. And so we spend a lot of time working out how to keep them occupied and to keep them safe, whilst also doing meaningful activities with them.
Have you had to sort of rewrite the book in some ways as to how you would deal with children like this in a Palestinian area?
Nobody else is doing it here. Within the culture and community here, our young people are a shame and a stigma on their families and so get severely neglected. We're struggling to find other people who have done the work in the community that we do because much of our work is with the families, but also with such low levels of ability. Just playing a simple game is beyond the ability of most of our children, and so we have to come up with new ways of stimulating them and keeping them occupied whilst also keeping them safe.
Are the families very happy when you're coming to take their child away just for a few weeks so that they can get a break? Is it difficult for the families with some of these children?
I think it's fair to say that all of our families look forward to the time when they are able to say goodbye to their children. Some of our families don't even want to take the effort needed to dress their child before they come. But the idea of them being away from their home and having the opportunity to not have to think about this child means that the families, for the most part, are relieved more than anything.
Do you have to work with the family as much as you work with the child?
No, we have to work much more with the family than with the child. Our experience is that we want the families to have a heart for their children, because when they do, then their whole outlook changes. They begin to be able to think about their child before themselves. They stop worrying so much about what other people will think. And so when this happens, our children get fed a little bit better, dressed a little bit more, they get beaten a little bit less, but everybody's life in the family improves when mum and dad start to care for their child. And so that's where most of our effort goes.
Are you able to take many children here at the home?
We can, depending on staff, which obviously depends on finding the right people and being able to pay their salaries, but the way that we work means that within the 6 beds that we have available, we could ultimately care for 100 different individuals over an 8-week cycle, where they come for 1 week, or actually 4 days, and then in 8 weeks' time they come back for another short break, and then in another 8 weeks they come back again. So we're able to work at the minute with about 30 individuals, and more as time goes by and we have the resources to do it.
Now you have local Palestinian workers working here. Is it teaching them how to love and respect disability as well? Is that something that needs to be taught in the culture?
We're very privileged with our staff team that they have all either already had that or were open to the idea that disabled people can be loved and valued in the same way as everybody in the community. We want our whole team and our young people to see the value that God places on the lives of our disabled friends. But it's hard to find the right staff who have that idea or that openness to learn it. We've probably turned away 5 out of 6 people who apply for jobs, maybe more than that, just because they cannot cope with the idea of being close to a disabled child, even though they're applying for a job working with a disabled child.
Is it completely different here in the Palestinian Authority than in England?
It's more different than I can begin to describe. As a social worker in the UK, I used to work with young people with a range of challenging disabilities, but there is so much support available, and there are so many different ways that we could help somebody with profound disabilities. But here in the Palestinian territories, when we're talking about cognitive disabilities, there isn't any help for this extreme end of disability. And so we're having to work out from the very beginning, how do we cope without the most basic of resources, without good medication to help, without access to residential care or psychological care. We're just at the beginning of working out how do we really make a meaningful difference for our young people.
Now we're here in one of the bedrooms and you've got a bed that's been modified. What have you had to do to modify this bed?
So we have a young lad, in fact several young people who injure themselves, but one in particular who hits his head against solid objects, so he has a tendency to break the floor tiles, 3 centimeter thick concrete tiles, just by hitting them with his head. And he does this for stimulation. He's been badly neglected for many years in his family home. And so we've had to take a bunk bed, just a regular bunk bed, and fit it out with mattresses that have been covered with heavy-duty plastic, which can be washable but looks good. And we've had to put netting around the side of it so that he can't get out, so that he's contained within this safe space. We're working hard so that it's clear that it's not a cage, he's not an animal, but he's a valued young person but needs to be protected from himself.
And this is all about safety for him, isn't it?
It is, and about being able to practically manage his care. In the UK, he would have 3 members of staff or 2 members of staff awake with him every hour of the day and the night. And that costs a significant amount of money, and it's just not something the families can do. We have to find solutions that work within the family home. And so we're trying things here. We have the privilege of being able to try something out, and if it doesn't work, adjust it until the time when we can take it to the family home so they can have a better place to look after their young people, rather than tying them with a chain or tying them up with a rope, leaving them in an outbuilding. Give them a safe, fun place to stay where they can't injure themselves so easily.
Are you seeing changes within the family? Is there a success rate with the children?
In every family except one that we work with, we have seen identifiable improvement in their situation. It might seem small, the outward signs, but there is a gentleness that comes across the families the longer we work with them. I said before that our young people end up being beaten a little less, fed a little bit more, clothed a little bit better. But those are demonstrations of the love that the family are beginning to have started to catch from us towards their children. And so we're seeing things getting better and better. It's going to take years, and we're accepting of that. But we're already seeing the changes with the families that we're working with, things that will have a lasting impact whether we continue to be involved or not.
Are there cases you just can't take here?
There are certain practical things that we can't manage, and there are certain things around safety that we can't do. So our building has several flights of stairs in it, and so we can't take somebody who isn't physically mobile. That means they can't walk. Truth is, we've taken a few young people, very young people, who we can physically carry up the stairs, but it's not ideal. So when people aren't physically able to move, we can't take them. And if they have complex medical care that they need, then we don't have the right staff and the right facilities to manage that. And then we have things around safety. If a child is sexually violent, we can't take them. Or if they are dangerous in the extreme, such as biting and causing injuries that would cause our staff team to have to be in hospital, we just can't manage that safely here.
Now, outside, you're trying to be eco-friendly, putting in a water filter system. How has that been, doing that in the Palestinian area?
Well, it's been quite an experience. We're not, to be honest, an ecological centre, but we just don't have enough water here. And water gets delivered once a fortnight, and so we had to make the best use of it. And so we thought that we could recycle the water and water our gardens, so that we've got a good outside space for our young people to show the community and their families that we care. Unfortunately, we don't have anybody else locally who's doing the same sort of recycling, and so we've learned the hard way how we can get this to work. We're now on our fourth attempt at digging out a water system with a gravel trap and a reed bed that will turn the water from the showers and sinks into usable water to water our garden and improve how the place looks and improve the environment that our young people can be staying in.
Are you making a difference in the community?
Yes. In every way that we look at it, we are able to see people's lives getting better, not just our disabled friends, but their families. We're able to challenge ideas in the community, and through all of this, to show the love that God has for this community, and to show it in a way that families can recognize. And so we see that we're making a difference even in the eyes of community leaders who are beginning to see a different way of looking at their disabled community and the families who in the past have been stigmatized by it.
Does the Palestinian Authority give money at all for disabled people?
Families with the most extreme disabilities, such as we work with, might receive £100 every 3 months if they have severely disabled young people in the family, but that only depends if the authority has the money at the time. For an organisation like us, we don't receive any government funding or support for the work that we're doing, and it seems unlikely that that's going to change anytime soon, which means that until the government does change, until the attitudes of community leaders really is transformed, it's going to require charitable help to meet the needs of these young people, and truth be told, that's normally talking about Christian care for these vulnerable people.
Why do you do what you do?
We are drawn to this community. Our hearts break for the situations that we experience in the homes that we visit when nobody else is helping these families. And the love that we have experienced from God compels us to show this and to do something to make a difference in this community.
And what's your prayer finally for these disabled youth all around the Palestinian area?
Our prayer is that there would be somebody, whether it is us or someone else, who will make at least a small difference in their lives, bring a little bit of joy into their lives, and let them see the love that God has for them.
Do you have a website for people who'd like to know more?
You can find us on the web at www.loveintoaction.org.
Okay, Laurence, thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.